Good evening, everyone. My guest tonight joins us to talk about his new memoir and a life that was very much immersed in what were sometimes good times, sometimes bad times, but certainly groundbreaking times, in particular for an African-American comedian. As most of you know, our guest was a star of the very popular television program that ran from 1974 to 1979 called Good Times. Playing the role of James J.J. Evans Jr., he became the first young black sitcom star in TV history.
Woo!
The series, like its most recognizable star, was a pioneering one. A comedy primarily, it was also one of the first to feature working class blacks and to deal with social issues such as child abuse, unemployment, STDs, and alcoholism. In his memoir, our guest candidly discusses his life in the hot spotlight of fame and his life leading up to the success of Good Times. Growing up with an abusive father, in a neighborhood where abuse was frequently the norm, and a mother who struggled to do her best for her family, his work in radio, in small clubs, and even as an opening act for the Black Panthers. Today, in addition to writing his story, our guest continues a very busy schedule of touring the country with his stand-up comedy. His book, which brings him here, has a title that he helped make a catchphrase of the 1970s. It has 3 syllables. So at the count of 3, I want to hear everyone say 1, 2, 3.
Dyn-o-mite!
Please join me in welcoming Jimmie Walker.
Woo!
Thank you. I tell you, I'm moved and shocked and stunned and amazed that something like this has happened. This is a book that we worked very long on, we worked very hard on. I know a lot of you want to, in show business or writing or doing something, and this is a thing that you'll find out. It takes a long time to get a book done. It's a book I wrote probably about 25 years ago. And throughout the course of time, it was a very difficult book to get done. And it took us that long to do it, through 4 writers that helped me tremendously, and a lot of people that worked out incredibly, and 3 agents that tried to get the book done. My good friend Adam, who's standing in the back on the left-hand side, got the whole thing done. He made it happen. There he is over there. Give him a hand. The great Adam made it happen, and we are here with this book. This book has, it's a memoir, because when I wrote it, it was a hard autobiography. But then my last partner, Sal, said, look, we got to put some stuff in, we got to round some stuff out, and most of it is right there. It's a great memoir of what I think I've done, whatever that may be, in whatever, I don't even know. But whatever it is, it's a memoir of my life. It's a memoir of what mostly happened, some rounded, some very, very hard things in there. It's always strange when you're writing, and then you see it finally, and you go, ooh, did I say that? And it sounds a little harsh sometimes when you look at it and you see it in print. But this is, it's there, and we hope that you guys like it. And I don't think it offends anybody, it just tells kind of the truth. I think everything in it is basically, with any names that are down there, is the truth. Nothing is fibbed up, made up. I don't think anybody can come and say, hey, wait a minute, you're lying about me. Everything is real in it. And with that being said, because you guys are so nice, I'm not just going to run over and sign books and stuff like that. We got time, because the bookstore closes at about 9 or 10 o'clock. So if you guys have any questions you want to ask, you can. And when I'm signing books, do not come over and say, oh, I meant to ask this question, but I forgot, because I'm not going to answer. Don't think I'm a bad guy, because I told you already, now is the time. It's the last time I'll answer any questions, because I just don't feel like it. But anyway, but that's that. So you can do that now and ask any question you want about the book, about me, about the bookstore, about my alleged bodyguards, whatever you want to say. There's a cop on duty allegedly, straight from the Subway sandwich place. He came in, fabulous, he's wonderful. And we got that. So any questions you want to ask, you can raise your hands now, get them in, and you can tail off on somebody else's question. If somebody asks something, you say, oh yeah, let me ask this. So that's that. And you get the straight answer from Jimmie JJ. Yes, sir.
I'm from the Bronx, and I'm just curious, where did you live in the Bronx?
I lived in the Melrose Projects on 156th Street and Morris Avenue, and raised there on apartment 14A. That's where I grew up, spent most of my time. Then, as my mother did better, we moved to Katona Parkway, and that was a big deal. And eventually, I bought her a house up in the Bronx, way the devil up there. So she still lives there, 90 years old. She's doing her thing. And she's still doing her thing, and she's having a great life. And as people get older, they're ready to kind of go out. So I always have to tell her, you're not going anywhere. You're still here. Cut the doo-doo. Let's go on with it. Because she's always telling me about that. But I definitely grew up in the Bronx. And as in the book I mentioned, I worked a lot of places in the Bronx. I worked at the Grand Union in the Bronx. Then I worked at the Grand Union downtown in Manhattan on, I think, 72nd Street in York. Way over there, delivering groceries and stuff like that. And of course, my masterpiece thing is that I did work at Yankee and Shea Stadium as a vendor for like 6 years. I was there doing the Dooley Womack Fitz Peterson marriage switch deal. So that happened there. Kekich, Mike Kekich, you are correct. Mike Kekich, he remembers. And was it Fritz Peterson or was it Dooley Womack? Fritz Peterson and Mike Kekich. Yeah, so I worked there during then. One of them is still married. I don't know which one, but one of them is still married. So yeah, I worked there during the Mike Kekich. Fritz Peterson, as my man corrected me. Yes, you over there, my friend.
I didn't have a chance to read your book.
Well, then get out. Anybody doesn't read my book, that's it. Go ahead. What?
I'm here to
Maybe buy a copy. You're not of great value. You're coming here just to get a couple of questions in and maybe get the free coffee in the back, and then you'll leave. Maybe somebody will leave a glazed donut downstairs. You'll take that. Yeah, go ahead, buddy.
The for your book on Barnes & Noble website explained that you had some, you were supervising some people in a business you ran, and there was some, what would be called racial discrimination in the book.
I'm not sure racial discrimination ever played any part in my deal. You know, I don't. You know, my mother grew up in that. She grew up in Selma, Alabama. And she grew up with a very, very, very strong family. And the interesting thing was we went back to Selma, Alabama, which is, for anybody, especially young people, it was like somebody like that, was the core of the civil rights movement, okay? And Martin Luther King marched down there. Mm-hmm. And you'll see, as you go through Selma, you'll see the grave sites of the workers who went down there to try to, you know, get integration. And my mother grew up in such a strong family, and this is different than nowadays. It's like she listened to everything her mother and father said. Now, it sounds like a joke, but it's true. Now, here's what actually happened. We went downtown Selma, which is all closed up. There's nothing there, zero, okay? Went down there, and we saw all these stores and all these things boarded up. I called my mother, and I said, Mom, we're at Benson's grocery store. Did you ever go there? Did you ever hang out at this place? And my mother said, my father said, this is what my mother said. She said, my father said not to go downtown because we weren't allowed to go downtown. And I said, yeah, but when you went down there, what happened? She says, oh no, my father said not to go, I didn't go. And I was like, really? I mean, because kids nowadays, she said, hey, don't do that. Yeah, okay, I'm going over to the place now. But I told you not to go. I'm going, yeah, I'll see you later, pal. And so for her to say, you know, wow. And this is another thing. Like, my mother lived here. There was a church there, okay? My grandfather, who I never met, got into a fight with a preacher over there, okay? Now, their church was here. My grandfather drove an hour and a half to another church rather than just walk over here to, she says, no, my father said he was really upset with that preacher and he was never going to go back to that church again. And she said, my friends went there, but I told them I couldn't go. And I was just like so stunned that somebody would listen like that and not just say, I'm going. I'm not going an hour and a half drive. Come on. But that's the way it was in those days. So that's that. Yeah, you in the back.
Is it true that you introduced the world comedy to Freddie Prinze?
I'm not sure introduce is the word. Freddie was already a comedian. Freddie came down to the Improv, which is on 44th and 9th, when he was 17 years old. And Freddie was one of these guys who said, I am the best comedian in the world. And you go, you're 17. How are you going to be the best comedian in the world? And he just said, I'm the greatest. And Freddie had such supreme confidence with comedy, with women, with cars, and he was just a different guy. And then when I see this Freddie Prinze Jr. guy come out, he is so nothing compared to his dad. I mean, he's like zero. You just go, this guy didn't come out of Freddie Prinze. Who is this guy? He's just like a white bread milk toast cat. Freddie was not like that at all, man. And then when they did the story, they did the Freddie Prinze Lifetime TV story, they had Freddie Prinze crying over some woman that left him. I said, Freddie Prinze crying over a woman? Are you, unless she ran him over in his car. That would never happen, man. But I guess they had to put that kind of stuff in. Freddie had supreme confidence and an amazing ego for a guy who didn't have as much material as he thought he did. Yes, sir.
Hi, what are your memories of working on the movie Airplane and working with Janet Jackson?
Airplane was interesting because the Zucker brothers did Airplane. I have a little part in that movie. Now, the Zucker brothers worked in a comedy troupe called Kentucky Fried Theater. Okay, that was their group. Okay, so they worked in there, and I worked in there, and I did some comedy with them, and the whole deal like that. They were writing scripts, tons and tons and tons of scripts. They couldn't get anything done. I have tons and tons and tons of scripts, couldn't get anything done. They finally got a script done, and I saw them in the restaurant. I said, hey, what are you guys doing? They said, oh, we're trying to sell this movie about airport, which is based on airport, is airplane. And I said, well, what's happening? They said, well, we sold it to Warner Brothers, but we took it away from them because they wouldn't let us direct. I go, you guys have never directed anything. They go, well, we must direct, otherwise it's not gonna be done. And I left and I said, what idiots. They sold it and they wouldn't do it. So now I see him 2 years later. This is how long this movie took to get done. I see him 2 years later and they go, we sold the movie to Paramount, man. I said, oh, great. And he said, and we're directing. And I went, really? And they said, we're directing with this other guy. And here's what happened. I did a movie in New York, a little tiny, tiny, tiny part in a movie called Badge 373, where I get kicked in the head by Robert Duvall in the movie. Howard Koch was the producer of the movie. Howard Koch, for anybody who doesn't know, has worked with John Wayne and Humphrey Bogart and Betty Davis and all this stuff like that. I did Badge 373, like 6 months later I was doing Good Times. Nothing to do with Badge 373, just the way it went. Howard Koch says, I discovered Jimmie Walker. I was the guy. I went, really? No, I don't think so. So what happened was, Howard Koch went on to direct the Academy Awards. He had a deal with Paramount. He never wrote anything, he was just a producer, not just, but he was a producer. He got on Airplane, but he didn't care about the movie. He was just living out the deal, because he had a deal, he would get paid like $500 grand a year just to produce whatever. So he's sitting on the set, these guys are doing their first movie, and they really care about it. They're really into it. This guy's sitting on the set going, yeah, when I worked with John Wayne in 1941, I did this and I did that. And they're going, Howard, could you just go off the set because we're really busy here. Even though he's executive producer, you'll see his name down there. And that's how that happened. And they put me on the movie because they knew me. Howard Koch was doing the Academy Awards. I saw Howard Koch, he's driving down Sunset Boulevard. He says, hey, Jimmy, you want to be in this movie? I said, sure. Now, usually when people say that to you, they're lying. They lie, they lie, they lie. I said this last night on Letterman, but it's actually true. People in this business lie, lie, lie all the time. People got cards, they've done this, they've done that, but they've done nothing. And so, I mean, I say this, and I said it last night, but I said I'm outside, and the guy says, hey, do you want to be in my next movie? I'm Steven Spielberg. And I looked at the guy, and he was an Asian guy. So I was like, oh, yeah, right, good. So people just lie. So that's that. So whatever. But anyway, Howard Cox called me, and I was in the movie, and I had a great time. Yes, sir.
Does it bother you that the character JJ came out as buffoonish as he did? Because
It didn't bother me because I went into it trying to be as funny as I could. They say buffoonish, this and that, and I tell this story and I'll tell it again. The reason a lot of minorities are not working is because there's a lot of PC going on. And you'll see this with our show. Our show was the first example of that, really, because what happened was I played a character that was trying to be funny. And when you're trying to be funny, that's like taking a pie in the face. You got to take a pie. And you gotta take the pratfalls. You gotta do the Jerry Lewis spit take. You gotta do the whole doggone thing. And what happens is, if everybody is good and everybody is nice and sweet in the comedy, there is no comedy. You know, the only person to get away with something like that, because that's what he does, is Bill Cosby. Our show took a lot of heat in terms of what I learned in retrospect, because the black community really got on us about doing whatever. So then everything toned down kind of deal. And we were poor, they didn't like the fact that we didn't like that. So what the do people, and I try to tell people, to make money. That's the gig. They don't want. They go the least way of having. The reason now how 10 years later, after our show, was the first black sitcom again, which is Cosby. Other than Tyler Perry shows, you don't see many black comedies, and you're not going to see many minorities because they don't want to take a chance and get complaints from the minority community, whether it be Hispanic or whatever. But whenever you see a minority on TV nowadays, there are no poor minorities on TV. Everybody is rich. Every minority is the head of the hospital, the head of the police station, the head scientist, the guy you gotta go to in the bank. He is the guy. So from that standpoint, you're not gonna be the funniest breakout character because you are the head man. The head man is never the funniest guy. And you look at even acting. The guy, Denzel Washington, and he's done a ton of great shows as teachers, as Malcolm X, this and that. But what did he win the Academy Award at? Training Day, where he played a terrible, horrible, mean, low-life turncoat. Halle Berry's been pretty and gorgeous in every movie and lovely and delightful. But what did she win the award for? Monsters Ball, which she was an H.O., I guess you want to say. And that's that. You're not going to win the award, or you're not going to get gigs by being the nicest, sweetest guy out there. You got to be something spunky. Anybody that wins the Academy Award or wins an Emmy or wins a Golden Globe, it's the wildest, craziest, kookiest character out there. So from the minority standpoint, what they've done with black people is they've faded us down. And even this, and I know it's going to sound terrible, but in the 70s, we played a lot of criminals on TV. We were criminals, which is fine. But what they said was, black people are not criminals. We don't want to see black people as criminals. What you don't realize is, those were jobs. Yes. And now, all the criminals are white. So you don't see any Mexican, Puerto Rican, Cuban. You know, everybody is black cops, which is cool. But that's what you're going to see. So from that standpoint, you're not going to see any black. You got like 3 bankable black stars now. Will Smith being one. It's that kind of deal like that. You're not going to see any minority shows because they're not going. And I always tell the story. And I don't know if this is in a book. I put it in there. I don't know if it's still in there. But when Cosby came on TV, a lot of people said, too sweet, too this, too that, there's no whatever. So the network said, you know what we got to do? We got to get a counterpiece, something different, the opposite of Cosby. Michael Moy who is a sensational, unbelievable black writer. I mean, one of the best in the world, if not the best writer of anything, black, white, yellow, whatever. They hired him to write a counterpiece to The Cosby Show. And they read what he wrote, his script, and they said, this is so funny. We love it, but we can't do it. The black people will destroy us. So they put it away. 2 years later, a new regime came in. They looked at it. They went, oh my God, this is so funny. And somebody in the office said, we can't do it as black people, but let's do it as white people. They did it, married with children. Now think about that. If that had been a black show, oh my not good. Yes, sir. Wait a minute, this guy right here, I get you.
A couple of questions. One, still keep in touch with any of the stars?
The only person that I really talk to once in a while is Bernadette, who played Thelma. And Bernadette, she reaches out. She tries to say, look, we gotta, we're getting older. Let's calm this whole thing down and try to do the thing. And in reality, I don't talk to her as much. I talk to her husband, Kevin, more, because we're doing business, because we still have a show that we do, the Good Times Family Kids, me, Michael, Ralph Carter, and Bernadette. So we are on business terms, so we do that. So we really don't talk anymore. As it says in the book, the reality of it is the rest of the cast I never really spoke to. I mean, I've been here for what, 10 minutes? I've spoken to you guys longer than I've spoken to them in the years that we were on. So we never really spoke. There was no animosity or anything. We just did not talk. And we never talked in the whole time we did the show for whatever many years it was. And that was the way it rolled. I mean, it was no big deal. And so when you ask me about John Amos or Esther Rolle, I can't comment because I don't really know them. I have no idea. I could, if you said, how do you reach them? How do you get them? What do they do? I have no idea what they do. I don't know. And the same thing happened with Janet Jackson. Janet Jackson came to the show and she came late and she came as a kid. And if anybody knows anything about acting, you have to have, like, for kids now, because of Fatty Arbuckle, you gotta have the rest rule. They gotta rest. They gotta go to school. They have to have rehabilitation. Oh my God! It's like if it's an hour in the day, they have 50 minutes in different things. You have to take them to the side. You gotta make sure you're all right. Are you good? Oh man, I don't have time for that. So that's and they have to have a guardian on the cast. I did enough already. Get out of here. Yes, sir.
Actually, Esther Rolle, who played the mother, passed away.
I know. That's what I said.
And the second question does not have anything to do with the show, but how did you get into that movie that was on the Sci-Fi Channel 2 weeks ago, titled Super Shock? I mean, I only saw you in I heard your voice.
I'll tell you right now, quite honestly, I don't even remember it. I have no idea. If I did it, I don't know. Yes, sir.
Is there life after Dyn-o-mite? Do you do coaching for young comedians of both sexes, of any color or sexual persuasion?
Is there life after Dyn-o-mite? Well, I'm standing here. I'm here, and the other, other comedians. Yeah, I work with a lot of other guys. When I started, and I was very lucky to have some good people. Started, people.